What is up, guys? It's Bobgar, and this week for our $10 deck, we're going to look at 10-ticket Grave Pact in Modern. So it's about a little less than $10 on Magic Online. Actually, it's right around 9. It says $9.25 up there. But in paper, it is $130. I'm going to jump over to the paper tab for a second to show you why. Most of it is Grave Pact, basically $60 in paper for all four, so like $12 a piece or something. The Nether Traitors are a little expensive too. I'll get into those in a little bit. And the Gravecrawlers are a little expensive. And then a couple of Sideboard cards are expensive. And those could probably be changed to swapped out for something else. But almost half the price of the deck is in the Grave Pact, which is the namesake card for the deck. It is pretty important to the deck. So let's take a look at how the deck works. So Grave Pact is a really neat enchantment. 1 colorless, 3 black. So you have to be pretty heavy in black to play this. It's also a 4-drop, which in Modern, it's hard to play 4-drops. They have to be really powerful to be worth it. But the ability is pretty powerful. Whenever a creature you control is put into a graveyard from play, each other player sacrifices a creature. So basically, we're going to have ways to sack our own creatures, and every time we do, our opponent is also going to have to get rid of a creature, and we're going to build our deck in ways that advantages us more than our opponents. So let's look a little bit at how we do that. Well, let's look at first the 2 cards I already mentioned. Nether Traitor is one you probably don't know very well. Not many people play it. It's from Time Spiral, I believe. 1/1 Shadow Haste. Not great, gets in a little bit of damage, kind of nice. Can't block, which kind of sucks because it has Shadow. I mean, it can block things with Shadow, but usually not relevant. But its last text is the really cool part. Whenever another creature is put into your graveyard from play, you may pay a black mana. If you do, return Nether Traitor from your graveyard to play. So basically, for 1 mana, if this thing is in the graveyard, it comes back to play. You know, a little bit like Gravecrawler, who we're going to look at in a second. A little bit like Bloodghast or something. It has that kind of really good graveyard recursion thing going on. And you can, if you have 2 of them out, you can basically loop them. You can sack one. If you know, sack one's in your graveyard, one's in play. Sack the one from play, pay 1 to bring the graveyard to play, and you can just swap them back and forth. Like keep sacking one, bring the other one back. So with 2, you can have infinite, you know, not infinite sack triggers. Sack triggers up to the amount of mana you have. 1 sack trigger per 1 mana. So you can tell how that would work really well with Grave Pact. It basically means we have a, you know, spell we can use at any time that says pay 1 mana, our opponent sacrifices a creature. Likewise, Gravecrawler is a little easier to do that with. It has some disadvantages. You can only do it on your own main phases because you have to cast this guy. The other one is a triggered ability. But he basically has, as long as you control another zombie, and there's going to be a bunch of zombies in the deck, including him, obviously. So if you had 2 of him, you could do it. You can play him from your graveyard. So for him, you could sack him, get the trigger off Grave Pact, and then play him again from your graveyard. Again, looping for exactly 1 mana. You can just loop this guy over and over again, keep sacking him, and for every time you sack him, your opponent will have to sack something. So those are the 2 main sack triggers that we have in the deck. They're the most important ones. We can sack other things. A lot of times it's worth it. Our opponent's creatures tend to be, I mean, we could be against token decks, but in most cases, our opponent's creatures are more important than our creatures. So it is worth it to like sack our creature to get a Tarmogoyf or a Death Shadow or something off the board, you know. Even if it's, instead of the Gravecrawler, it's a Crypt Breaker or something slightly better. And I guess I'll talk about the 3rd recurring piece. This one is not nearly as important to the deck. It does have a few nice things about it that the other 2 don't. Dread Wanderer, disadvantage, he comes into play tapped. He's a 2/1. One of the nice things about him is he's able to block. And he also has a recurring element. If you have 1 or less cards in hand, you can play him bring him from the graveyard to play for 3 mana. The reason that's nice is a lot of times the deck struggles with sweepers because when you get swept, you can't get back Gravecrawler, and if you got swept with no mana up, you can't get back Nether Traitor. Although I will say, if you get swept with mana up, all those, basically you get a trigger on the stack for Nether Traitor for every creature that went to the graveyard other than it. So you can bring it back right away if you have the mana up. But a lot of times you won't. So sweepers are pretty bad, but this guy you can bring back from your graveyard for 3. Even after a sweeper, as long as you don't have many cards in hand. And then once he's in play, if you had a, you know, Gravecrawler in your graveyard, you can just replay him for 1. So you can rebuild your board very quickly with this guy. Part of the reason he's in the deck. Also just another recurring thing in case you don't get Gravecrawler or Nether Traitor. Obviously a recurring sack outlet for, you know, making your opponent sack a creature for 3 mana. Way less good than making him sack a creature for 1 mana and being able to repeat it, but still pretty powerful. If you have like 6 mana, you can just sack this guy twice a turn, make your opponent sack 2 creatures every turn. So in there as kind of the backup piece and helps with sweepers and has a couple little roles in there. And then I guess the next one I'll talk about, which isn't as much of a combo piece, but is pretty useful in the deck, Crypt Breaker. Lets us discard some cards. We don't mind discarding some of our cards, especially Nether Traitor and Gravecrawler. That there's no cost to discard them anyway, because we can just get them back from our graveyard. So you can discard a card and make a 2/2 with him if that's useful to you. It also lets you tap 3 zombies to draw a card. That's way more important. We have a ton of cheap zombies. We have, 3 1-drop zombies, and we're going to have a couple 3-drop zombies as well. Yeah, the 3 1-drop zombies we looked at. So a lot of times on turn 2 or 3, you'll be able to draw a card every turn and make sure you hit your combo pieces. So that's why he's in the deck. I think he's just a really solid zombie. I think he's one of the best zombies that we have, and certainly certainly one of the best 1-drop zombies we have. Him and Gravecrawler really make zombies a playable tribe, in my opinion. So Crypt Breaker is great. That's the role he plays in the deck. And then in addition to Grave Pact, we have a couple more combo pieces, basically. Maybe combo is a strong word. Synergy pieces might be better. Well, I guess let's look at the sack outlets first, because we haven't talked about them. We have Viscera Seer is a 1-drop. So even without Grave Pact, if we have one of our recurring loops where we can just pay a mana and get a sack trigger, we can scry X on every turn, basically, as much mana as we want to dump into it. Scry 1 equals pay 1 mana. This can be really nice to help us find our Grave Pact or our other combo pieces if we need them. So that's why he's in the deck. And obviously we need the sack triggers once Grave Pact is out to make our opponent sack their board. And then the next one is Nantuko Husk. Pretty neat guy. He used to get played in Aristocrats a lot. There's some similar vampires to him too. Obviously we're running him specifically because he's a zombie, and that synergizes with Gravecrawler. So that's the reason we're running Nantuko Husk specifically. But he's a 3-drop with sacrifice a creature. He gets +2/+2 until end of turn. So this not only helps us have a sack outlet to do our loops for Grave Pact, that loop also is super good for this guy, because we can make a go tall threat where his power and toughness is 2/2 times the amount of mana you spend on him, basically, if you have like a Gravecrawler loop or something. And he loops with Gravecrawler by himself because he's already a zombie. So pretty powerful loop, and gives us a go tall option. And then so we kind of have a control option in Grave Pact, and then we have a go tall option in Nantuko Husk. And then the last card we're playing, last creature we're playing is actually Diregraf Colossus. And this card is really neat because it gives us a go wide threat. What does that mean? Well, this guy's a 3 mana 2/2, which is not the best rate, but he comes in with a +1/+1 counter for every creature in your graveyard. Sometimes it makes sense to sack a couple of your Gravecrawlers before you put them out if you just want them to come in as a 3/3 or 4/4. And then the last ability is the more interesting one to us. Whenever you cast a zombie, put a 2/2 black zombie creature token into the battlefield tapped. Why is that useful? Well, most of our guys, the Recursion, they just put onto the battlefield. That's not true with Gravecrawler. So for Gravecrawler, when you play him from your graveyard, you're actually casting him. So if you have a Diregraf Colossus out and you have a Gravecrawler loop, you are not only potentially getting Grave Pact triggers, not only potentially pumping your Nantuko Husk or getting these scries, you're also putting out a 2/2 zombie every time you sack your Gravecrawler and then replay him from your graveyard. So a lot of times this lets us just get up to 10 things on board, and if we need to, if we have Grave Pact out, we can also sack those 10 things to kill our opponent's board. We don't even need to sack the Gravecrawler in a loop if we don't need to. And we could also, I think that's not very common. What's more common is that so the only reason you do that is if you ran out of mana and you just need to sack a whole lot of things. What's more common is that you end up in a spot where you lose if you don't have something very specific, either like a Nantuko Husk or a Grave Pact, or they're killing your sack outlet, so you need to find another one. You have a Viscera Seer out, they're going to kill the Viscera Seer, and you need to find another sack outlet, so you can basically sack all those zombies to get enough tokens to get enough scry triggers to hopefully find whatever it is you needed. So I feel like he's super good in the deck. I've been really impressed with him. And then there's some spells, just 8 of them, not a whole lot. These are the last non-land cards. 4 Tragic Slip. Answers almost anything in Modern really well for us for 1 mana. We're sacking so much that basically it'll always be turned down when we want it to be. And -13, -13 until end of turn kills, like I said, basically anything. I think almost anything it can target. I mean, you can't target Emrakul with this anyway, and it kills all of the Titans who have Indestructible. It gives us a chance against some decks that we might not have other chances against. In this deck, I just think it's better than Fatal Push, basically. So, really nice card. And then Sign in Blood. 2 mana, draw 2 cards, lose 2 life. Slightly better than Night's Whisper for us because we can point it at our opponent and we're mono black anyway. Usually we'll just point it at ourselves and draw 2 cards and lose, you know, because we want to find our combo pieces and things like that. That's why it's good in the deck. But if our opponent's at 2 life, you can target it at his face, or if he has like 1 or 2 cards left in his deck, you can target it at him, force him to draw himself out and win the game through mill. But yeah, usually it's just a 2 mana draw 2. Feels pretty good. And then that's basically the whole deck. That's how it works. Those are the synergies. A little bit weird, a little bit different than you would usually play a modern deck. Very, very grindy. I think it has very good game against mid-range and like creature decks, even slightly aggro creature decks, if they are just like a turn slow. Like, you know, Goblins maybe it has a little trouble with if Goblins has like they're a really nutty fast draw. But if they don't, and you can get to turn 4 and then you can just sack down your board to kill all the Goblins, you're pretty good. So I think that's kind of the matchups. Basically, it struggles against combo and it struggles against some aggro that like doesn't care about creatures that much, especially things like Burn. I think those are going to be the worst matchups. So things like combo, when I say combo, I mean like Tron, Ad Nauseam, things like that, because basically they just don't care about their creatures very much. They just care about slamming a big threat. And then the Burn decks, again, can kill you without caring about their creatures. I think that's one of the keys. Is it's good against decks that need to use their creatures to kill you. I say 20 swamps. It runs 20 swamps. It's monocolored. Lane base is really easy. I should talk about the sideboard. I don't know if I built the sideboard optimally, but this is what I ended up on. I did a couple passes on it and found that I needed some different things. 2 Ghost Quarters. Fight against, like I said, Tron. We don't have a very good game against them anyway, but if we have a chance against them, it's just all of our 2/1 zombies and things like that coming in. We can build up a pretty big board pretty quickly if we can keep them off of like Yujin or Oblivion Stone for a little while. Sometimes we can eke it out. 3 Duress, disrupt the hand, good in a lot of matchups. Again, this comes in a lot against those combo decks I was talking about, like Ad Nauseam. Probably comes in against things like Burn as well, just to make sure they don't have the cards in their hand to burn you out. Gold Color's Chance, a little bit of a weird one. Don't usually need it, but it is pretty good against the sweeper decks. Just gives you another way to get back important pieces. So basically, this is a return 2 zombie cards from your graveyard to your hand. You could return another combo piece. Just pay 1, return one of the important combo pieces that's non-zombie, but usually you're going to want to return 2 zombie creatures, I think. That's what that does. Pretty good in the matchups where it's good, pretty bad everywhere else. That's why we don't run it in the main board. We have enough main board recursion that we shouldn't need it unless they're just packing like 4+ sweepers and a bunch of spot removal. So that's what that is. Nihili Spellbomb. Alright, it's not Nihil Spellbomb. Basically a graveyard hate effect that can target a specific graveyard, so we don't have to hit our own. I find it to be pretty good if you're running black. Probably better than Tormod's Crypt just because you can draw a card off it too. 2 Dragon's Claw against that Burn matchup that I mentioned was bad. Any other red aggro goblins this would come in against too. Just gives us a little more time to hit our combos and synergies in those places. And, you know, some of those combos and synergies work really well. Like a huge Nantuko Husk can kill those decks pretty well. And so can the go wide threats with Diregraf Colossus, even though Grave Pact isn't as important in those matchups. And then 3 Heroes Downfall. This came in because there's a lot of Planeswalkers in the format right now. There's a lot of Jaces, there's a lot of Lilianas, and this gives us an option to answer those while also being a nice flexible thing to kill creatures. Being able to do it at instant speed is super nice. Nice to have just some removal in addition to the tragic slips. So that's the deck. I hope you guys think it's cool. I think it's really cool. I'm going to go play some games with it. I hope you guys enjoy, and I will see you guys later. See you next time. Bye.